Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash, double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. And shalom to the 144,000 elect men of the nation of Israel and the rest of the elect that are destined to be saved. I'm the brother Kalab from the GMS UK London Forecasters Camp, coming back at you with another lesson to help edify those of which I spoke of. And in this lesson, I want to talk about how essentially all the brothers in this truth are all members of one body. You know, the Apostle Paul made that very clear in the book of Corinthians, which I'm going to read right now, because this truth isn't a one-man show. That's why a lot of guys who have, fallen out in the past, they tend not to do very well, especially when they go out there by themselves, because when they're out there by themselves, they're cut off from the body. And if you cut a branch off a tree and you throw it on the ground, that branch can't survive on its own. It needs to be connected to the body of the tree in order to stay healthy. So us as being members of the body of Yahushai, we need to stay connected to the source. And not every member is going to have the same function, because just as our bodies have different members, different parts, so it is in the truth of the body of Yahushai. Not everybody's going to be an eye, not everybody's going to be an ear, not everybody's going to be a nose, not everybody's going to be a foot, not everybody's going to be a hand, not everybody's going to be a backbone. But guess what? All of the parts that I've mentioned there are vital for the functioning of a healthy body. Just as you have someone in the world, if they've got a damaged spine, they might not be able to walk, and they're going to be maybe have to be moved around in a wheelchair. That's not healthy. That's sickness. So do you think that the body of Yahushai is going to have a member that doesn't function and causes the body to not function correctly and still be apart? No. The body of Yahushua is going to be formed perfectly. So therefore all the members of that body have to work in concert. I use that word concert. Let's look that up in the dictionary. Concert, standard dictionary definition of concert. It says a public musical performance. A public musical performance in which a number of singers or instrumentalists or both participate. Let me read that again. Forgive me, I've got notifications on. I should really have turned them off. Let me do that now. There we go. Salakia for that. Let me read this again, because I said all members of the body have to work together in concert. And there's a lot of principles that apply to the principles of music, which I could use in an analogous form to describe what I'm saying. So concert is one of the words I'm going to put out there. Concert means a public musical performance in which a number of singers or instrumentalists or both participate. So a concert isn't one instrument. If you have one instrument, that would be called a solo. Now, to be fair, you could have a solo guitar concert, but by the definition of, like, where you go out and you perform in front of a number of people, just you being one instrumentalist, but usually you're performing in a band or in an orchestra. Usually it's not a one-man show, because if it's just one guy playing guitar on the stage, who's going to do the drums? Who does the bass? Who does the keys or the strings or the piano? Who does all those parts? Definition 2. A public performance, usually by an individual singer or instrumentalist or the like. That would be a recital. An agreement of two or more individuals in a design or plan, combined action in accord or harmony. That's really what I want. Definition 3. An agreement of two or more individuals in a design or plan, combined action, accord or harmony. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that although the body has many members, they should all be working in concert with one another, and in harmony with one another, because that's how the body functions the best, when everything is working as it's supposed to do. So if you've got an eyeball that doesn't want to be an eyeball anymore and it wants to be a tongue, what would happen? How would the body see? And that position that is held by the tongue, what would happen if two are trying to sit in the same seat? It's not going to work, is it? Because the whole body would suffer, because it would be blind, because the eye wouldn't be doing its job. And what good is a blind body? That causes a lot of confusion, stumbling around, groping in the dark, not being able to see. That's why every member is not the same, but every office is important. I want to read this in the scriptures. This is 1 Corinthians 12, starting at verse 12. It says, "For as the body is one, and have many members, and all members of that one body being many, are one body, so also is Hamashiach. For by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether we be Jew or Gentiles," meaning Israelites who knew they were Israelites or Israelite foreigners, "whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Spirit. For here's the point, for the body is not one member, but many. For if the foot," let me say that again, "if the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, am I not of the body? Is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, am I not of the body? Is it therefore not of the body? And if the whole body were an eye, where were the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where were the smelling? But now hath the Most High set the members, every one of them, in the body as it hath pleased him. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now are they many members, but yet one body. And the eye cannot say unto the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are more necessary. And those members of the body which we think to be less honourable, upon these we bestow more abundant honour, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. For our comely parts have no need, but the Most High hath tempered the body together, having given more abundant honour to that part which lacked, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. And whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it, or one member be honoured, all the members rejoice with it. Now ye are the body of Hamashiach, and members in particular. And this goes into the offices within the church. I don't really need to go into that, but actually I will go into it. It says, and hath the Most High set some in the church, first as apostles, secondly prophets, thirdly teachers, and after that miracles, then gifts of healings, helps, governments, diversities of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Are all workers of miracles? Have all the gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show I unto you a more excellent way. So this is beautiful, because this expounds on the point that every member of the body of Yahushua has a different office, a different function. And it's funny because I'm just going through my head and thinking about the brothers I've met in this truth on this side of the pond. And I can say that every brother has a different gift or talent. And no two are the same. If we were all the same, then we'd all, if the Most High wanted us all to be the same, we'd all be the same height, we'd all have the same facial features, we'd all wear the same garment, we'd all speak the same way, we'd all have the same posture, we'd walk the same way, we'd all eat the same food. The Most High ain't dealing with that. That's boring and stale to the Most High. The Most High is the ultimate creative. He is the first author of beauty, as the scriptures say. So what the Most High has done is he's created a massive tapestry. Let me get this word in the dictionary. Hang on. Tapestry, definition: a fabric consisting of a warp under which coloured threads are woven by hand to produce a design, often pictorial, used for wall hangings, furniture coverings, etc. So basically, something, a large thing that is woven with various coloured threads to produce a larger design. You could also use the word a puzzle. There's different shapes of puzzle pieces. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if you broke out a jigsaw puzzle and every piece was the same shape. It would either be a very boring puzzle or it'd be a puzzle that doesn't work. Those are the only two ways. It could either be a very boring puzzle or a puzzle that doesn't work. So the Most High has created diversity within the brotherhood because that's what's entertaining to the Most High. What we have to understand at the end of the day is this is his program. It's all for his pleasure and his entertainment. So the Most High likes diversity. Now, what's interesting about this is I want to go into the scriptures and point out some examples of the diversity of spiritual gifts that the Most High bestowed upon certain men, all for the betterment of the church and the overall body at large. If we go to Exodus chapter 26, start at verse 1. Exodus 26, starting at verse 1. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them. Now, this is going on to how we were going to build the tabernacle when we was in the wilderness. The Most High gave very specific commands on what he wanted to be. It wasn't just a random do whatever you feel thing at all. It was all done decently and in order to the pleasure of the Heavenly Father, because at the end of the day, what is good is what is pleasing to the Heavenly Father. That's evidently abundant. When we adhere to the laws of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, things always work out better. Things always work out better because that's the way the Most High wants things to be. When we go off and we do things according to our own will and not according to the will of the Heavenly Father, that's the first step on the road to failure. And that's of a truth in any field. Because there's certain laws and principles which govern reality that the Most High created, which makes things tend to work out better overall. Now, in this verse, I want to go into the word cunning. So let's get the blue letter. This is the definition for the word cunning in that verse. Let's play it.
Strong's H2803. Chashav.
Right, hashav. And the outline of biblical usage is of the word cunning. Bear in mind that Most High used the word cunning. It says to think, plan, esteem, calculate, invent, make a judgment, imagine, count. To think, account, to plan, to devise, mean, to charge, impute, reckon, to esteem, value, regard, to invent, to be accounted, to be thought, to be esteemed, to be computed, to be reckoned, to be imputed, to think upon, consider, be mindful of, to think, do, devise, plan, to count, reckon, to be considered. Now, these are a lot of definitions for one word, that word being cunning, right? An outline of biblical, it's like your Strong's definitions. Let's get into this. Cheslab, primitive root properly to plate or interpretate, to weave, to fabricate figuratively, to plot or contrive, hence from the mental effort to think, regard, value, compute, make account of, conceive, consider, count, cunning, devise, esteem. There's so many. Find out, forecast, hold, imagine, impute, invent, be like, mean, purpose, reckon, regard, think. I can't even off the top of my head articulate all of those definitions for that one word that applied to that scripture, which I'll go back to. You can see on the screen. It was Exodus 26 and verse 1. Read it again. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubims of cunning work shall thou make them. Right? So the Most High wanted these artifacts for the tabernacle to be made with cunning. Now, I want to go deeper into this because I want to show something, because there's so many things that were made. But there's something else as a point to this. Hang on, I'm just trying to pull it up here. Let me jump down to Exodus. Hang on. Because I'm not going to go into the exact details, because it's telling you the exact dimensions and loops and how many tashes and what color the curtains need to be. But there's a point I want to get to. Bear with me a second. Jumping down to verse 31. It says, for the veil and the screen. Exodus, 26 and 31. And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen. Here's the point. The Most High wanted it to be of cunning work. With cherubim shall it be made. So the Most High has a standard. He doesn't want just any old slapdash. Yeah, just get Bob from around the corner to throw something together and the Most High will accept it. No, the Most High wanted it to be made with cunning work. And I went into all the definitions of cunning. But there's a deeper point to this. Go to Exodus 31. Bear with me. I'm going to link it all together. Exodus 31. Here's the point. Exodus 31 and 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. Here's the point. And I have filled him with the Spirit of the Most High, in wisdom and understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship. Here's the point. To devise cunning works, to work in gold and silver and in brass, and in cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. So the Most High put a cunning spirit into this particular man who he wanted to be responsible for making a particular part of the tabernacle. And the point here, it says the skilled craftsman. Yeah. So the Most High called out a particular man by name from a particular tribe to do a particular job. And the Most High put the spirit of cunning within that man to understand the particular rudiments or skills that would be needed to bring forth this work for the Most High's tabernacle and ministry. So this is one man. Now, did he charge this one man to make every single piece that would be needed for the Ark of the Covenant or for the tents of the tabernacle? No, there was a great many things that needed to be made, but he made one member of the body do a particular function. So he's going to call another member of the body to make another function. We'll get into it. So read this again. The skilled craftsman. Exodus 31:1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. And I see there's no confusion about who this particular person may be, because there could have been 10 men in a camp from 5 tribes, 10 men from 5 tribes, all called Bezalel. The Most High is very specific. He called his name, then he called his father's name, and he called his father's name, and then called out his tribe. So the Most High was specific. He knew exactly which spirit he had created to do which job. So it says, See, I have called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him. So he didn't fill himself with this knowledge. And here's the point. When it comes to things like, intelligence or any skill that any brother has, it's not of us, it's of the Most High. Because everything really, we're just little puppets, man, who follow the spill of we're little puppets that follow the will of the Most High, whithersoever he chooses how to move us. So really, it's the Spirit of the Lord behind all things. We can't really take credit for anything. So it says, and I have filled him. So the Most High filled him with this. I have filled him with the Spirit of the Most High, in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass, and in cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. Now here's another point, verse 6, Exodus 31:6. And behold, I have given with him Aholiab, if I'm saying that correctly, Aholiab, the son of Asimash, if I'm correct, of the tribe of Dan. And in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted have I put wisdom, that they may make all that I have commanded. So this isn't of these own men's will that they've got this wisdom and understanding. They've been blessed with this wisdom and understanding by the will of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai to bring forth the instruments that he wants to be created. So they're not doing their own will, they're doing the will of the Lord. The tabernacle and the congregation and the ark of the testimony and the mercy seat that is thereupon, and all the furniture of the tabernacle, and the table and the furniture, and the pure candlestick, and with all his furniture, and the altar of incense. Now that's the other key point. When it comes to incense, there are certain fragrances that the Most High wanted to be, certain aromas, certain smells that the Most High wanted to be in the temple. And if I'm not mistaken, the art of creating smells or fragrances is called apokathy. Let me look this one up. I think it's called apokathy. Hang on. Let me look in the Common Dictionary. That's not it. I'm not spelling it correctly. Damn it. Let's see if this word brings it up. No. It's not it. I used to know this word in the past. Forgive me. Let me Google it if I can. Bear with me while I Google this. A perfumer. Well, okay, we'll use this word. Right, we'll use this word. It's not the word I wanted. Here we go. Aromacology, not apokathy. Aromacology is derived from aroma and physiopsychology, the later being the study of aroma. So aromacology, okay, aromacology, right? Or perfumer. Yeah, so we can call them a aromacology or a perfumer, someone who works with fragrances to create certain smells. Now, the point being is that this isn't a light skill. It's something that someone has to have a spirit to do, and the Most High puts the spirit on them to do that. They understand what certain combinations will create certain fragrances, what will be pleasant to the smell, what will be pungent to the smell. They understand that science. The Most High gives them that wisdom. Just like someone who could be skilled at working with gold, they know how to heat the gold up to the particular temperature to eliminate the dross, and then they start to work it with, different tools to sculpt it and shape it into the form that they want. Those are skills. Those are two completely different skill sets. So you'd have two people on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Someone who works with metals and then someone who works with fragrances. But at the end of the day, they're both working together to create instruments for the Most High's ministry. So they're all working for the same goal, but they're working with completely different materials, completely different mindsets, completely different skill sets, but ultimately they're both making things that are ultimately going to be used for the glory of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai, not for the glory of their own sakes, because that's of the world. There's many people in the world who are not of the elect, who have skills. You've got rappers, dancers, singers, entertainers, Formula One car drivers. They're all very skilled in their field. The Most High gave them that level of understanding, but at the end of the day, that's for their own vanity. They're not using that for the glory of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. They're using it for their own vanity, and that really doesn't count to anything. The only thing that really counts to anything is the glory of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. So imagine that. The Most High calling you out to make something for his sanctuary or his temple. Imagine that. That's a great honor. But with that great honor comes a lot of responsibility, because you have to be cunning. Because that's one of the prerequisites. The Most High wanted cunning works devised by particular men that he put the spirit on. That's the standard. It had to meet that standard of being cunning. So not just anybody from the nation was bestowed with a particular level of understanding to the level that the Most High wanted it to be for the service of his ministry. Certain men were picked out to do certain jobs. But does that mean that they are any better than any of the other members of the elect? No. It doesn't mean that they're any better at all. In fact, the scriptures say we should esteem each other as better than ourselves. Let's get that one. If I can find it, bear with me. This is the one I want. There we go. This is the one I want. Philippians 2 and verse 3. Let me pull this up on the screen. Let's read. Oh, I knocked it off the screen. Forgive me. Philippians 2 and verse. Let's read into it from verse 1. Philippians 2 verse 1. It says, "If there be therefore any consolation in Hamashiach, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercies, fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind." So that's what Yahweh Shai wants us to be within the body, of one accord and of one mind. It says, "Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind." Here's the point. Let each esteem other better than themselves. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. I want to go into that word esteem.
Strong's G 2233. Hegeomai. Hegeomai.
Okay, hegeomai. Definitions are to lead, to go before, to be a leader, to rule, command, have authority over, a prince of regal power, governor, victory, chief, leading as respects, influence, controlling in council, overseers, leaders of the church. Use of any kind of leader, the leader in speech, chief spokesman. This is the definition I want, which is two. To consider, deem, account, think. This is the definition that we want, because it says to consider. So when you're looking at other brothers within the truth, we should consider them as better than ourselves. Deem, we should deem them as better than ourselves. Account, we should account them as better than ourselves. And think, meaning that we should think of them as better than ourselves. And this really is the key to humility. This is the key to humility, because what does the scripture say? Pride puffeth up. You know, pride is the beginning of one's downfall. And when we have it, nothing good can come of it. You know, in any situation where pride is present, it always goes south. And what do the scriptures say about the beginning of pride? I'll just get that. Hold on. This is Ecclesiasticus, me being Sirach. Let's go to Sirach. Come on, There we go, it's working now. It's lucky the phone was bugging out. This is Sirach 10 and verse 12. It says, the beginning of pride is when departed from the Most High, and his heart is turned away from his Maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. And therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities, and overthrew them entirely. Overthrew them utterly. So pride is the thing that we always have to guard against. We always have to be vigilant about within ourselves, because that's always one of the things that will draw us away from our Maker. And really, when it comes to this truth, we want to be drawing closer to our Maker day by day, rather than pulling away from him. We want to be going in the right direction. And pride sends a man completely in the wrong direction. You know, if you want to draw closer to the Most High, and you're increasing in pride, guess what? You're moving further away from the Most High. You ain't moving towards him. So that's the point on that. So we're supposed to esteem each other as better than ourselves. Now I want to bring it back into the scriptures I was reading in Exodus, which is on the other app. If I go back to it. Where was I? Bear me a second while I pull it back up. I'm working with a lot of precepts here. Bear me. There we go. Let's bring it back up again. We're going to go to Exodus 35 and 33. We start with we're going to go with another man. This is Exodus 35 and verse 30. And Moses said unto the children of Israel, See, the Lord Yahweh hath called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and hath filled him with the Spirit of the Most High, in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to devise curious. Let's get into this word curious.
Strong's H 4284. Machashava. Machashava. The second entry. Machasheveth. Machasheveth.
Right, the outline of biblical usage is, what is the word here? Curious, meaning thought, device, plan, purpose, invention. It says, Strong's definition, a contrivance, a texture machine, or intention, plan, cunning work, curious work, device, imagination, invented, means, purpose, thought. So the Most High put a spirit on this man to make not just cunning, but curious works. In gold, and in silver, and in brass, and the cutting of stones to set them. That would be a mason, isn't it? Someone who's got skill in masonry. Now, not mason in terms of Freemason, but just someone who works with stone, someone who's cutting stones. To set them, and the carving of wood, to make any manner of cunning work. And he hath put it in his heart that he may teach. See? So the Most High set up a particular man to be over this work. I suppose you could call him a foreman, but also to teach other men the skills necessary. So the Most High put a spirit in a particular man, and that man was supposed to teach the people under him to follow the orders that were set up by the Most High to bring about these particular cunning or curious works. So it says, and he hath put in his heart that he may teach both he and Elohiab, the son of Ashimach of the tribe of Dan, and he hath filled with the wisdom of the heart to work all manner of work of the engraver, and of the cunning workman, and of the embroiderer, which is another skill set. So you've got someone who works with metal. You could call them, let's call them a blacksmith. Then you've got a timber merchant. Then you've got someone who's skilled at the cutting of stones, which would be a mason. Now you've got someone who's an embroiderer. It says, and in blue and purple and in scarlet and in fine linen, and a weaver of them that do any work of those that devise cunning work. Now I'll use an example. Could you have a man who was, let's say someone who's working with the stones, a mason, right? Let's say this guy is quite built because he's used to moving heavy objects around all day, and he's got calloused hands because he's used to working with heavy tools, and he's, let's say he's a rough and tough kind of guy, right? And on the other hand, you've got someone who's working with cunning work through the Spirit of the Most High in embroidery. Embroidery involves, weaving and working with fabrics and, needles and what are those things they call? The thing that Rapunzel used to use. You see, not Rapunzel. Which fairy tale princess was it that pricked her finger with Rumpelstiltskin and she... forgive me, I've forgotten these childhood fairy tales. But that spinning wheel. The women would sit at that spinning wheel and they'd be weaving tapestries. You don't really see it too often these days because in the modern day we've got sewing machines. But, in industry where they make clothes and fabrics and stuff like that, curtains, you've got, a lot of people working sewing machines to bring about these things. So let's say you took these two characters, these two people working at different ends of the spectrum. Someone's working with hard timber and stones. The other person's working with, threads and fabrics and stuff, soft materials. Let's say you get these two men coming together. Could the one man, the stonemason, look at the other man who's got softer hands than him and be like, who does this guy think he is? He's a nobody because he don't move stones like me. He's not working with heavy timber like me. Could he look at that man as a waste man because he's got a softer presentation? No, he couldn't do that, because at the end of the day, the Most High put a cunning spirit in that man to devise craft, and craft skilled works in his field. See, in his field, he is an expert of his trade. He might not know anything about how to cut stones and how to set stones, or how to do woodwork and to plane and to sand, or to be like a blacksmith, heating up bits of metal and beating them at an anvil with a hammer. He might not know any of those things. See, he might be coming from a completely different walk of life. But at the end of the day, they have to respect and esteem each other as better than themselves. Rather than be like, oh, well, I come from this side of the spectrum, and this is me, this is it. And yeah, I no man can't tell me nothing. That kind of that stiff-necked Benjamite spirit, nobody can't tell me nothing spirit. But in reality, he could learn a lot from those other men, because really he is a novice when it comes to timber work or masonry or being a blacksmith. So if he were to esteem those others as better than himself and to listen and learn from them, he could gain a lot. Maybe he could take some of the insights into what they do and apply it into his own field, which he works in, which is a weaver working in tapestries. Likewise, the stone setter, the mason, he could learn a lot maybe from the tapestry maker, the weaver, the embroiderer, because skills can kind of be transferable. You might not be working in the same material, but all the arts are interconnected when you get down to the root of it. So basically, if there was any enmity between those two sides, how could there ever be any cohesion in the making of the elements that were needed for first the tabernacle in the wilderness, and then ultimately in the temple? When Solomon came into power, it was the same thing. The Most High put wisdom in certain men to make the things needed for the temple. See, ultimately, we're all working towards the same cause. And that's really where we go back into the principles of harmony. Because let's say you've got an orchestra. The orchestra is composed of different families. So let's say you've got your woodwinds. You've got your woodwind instruments, your clarinets, things like that. You've got your brass instruments, which would be your trumpets, trombones, French horns. You've got different elements in that family. Then you've got the wind family, which would be your flutes, your piccolos, things like that. Then you've also got your strings, which would be the family of instruments that are strung, which would be like your violins, your violas, your cellos, your double basses. Guess what? They're all very different instruments. They all take different skill sets to make their sound, because ultimately they're all trying to produce a sound. But guess what? Just because they're all different in size and shape and in tone, even in their ranges, some instruments are alto, some are soprano, some are tenor, some are bass. Those are your 4 ranges. But guess what? All the instruments in an orchestra have their position and part to play, and they all have to work in concert and in harmony with each other. Because if any of them aren't playing in harmony, there's going to be discord. As the scriptures say, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. And it's the same with the body of Yahweh Shai. If there's any schisms or discords, no matter how small within the body, the whole thing's going to be off. It's all going to be off balance. In music, there's a principle known as key signatures, because there's 12 notes, and it just oscillates at different frequencies. The faster it oscillates, the more high pitched the sound is. The slower it oscillates, the more dense the sound is. And it's just the same pattern of notes reoccurring, the same 12 notes reoccurring, just at different pitches and octaves as you go up and up and up in frequency. But the thing is, with the key signature thing, if there's a piece of music, it means that there's a certain scale, because there's many scales. There's a certain scale that a particular piece of music has to be played to. And if someone plays a note that doesn't fit within that scale, guess what? The whole thing falls apart. Because it sounds out of place and just whack. And it stands out like a sore thumb. So the point being is that that's what schisms in the body of Hamashiach are like. It causes that discord. It causes the whole thing to break apart. So we all have to be working in harmony and in synchronization with each other. See, there's things like you can go into key signatures, which are the variations in different pitches, but you can also have timing too. In music, you got timing. If this piece is supposed to be in common time, which is 4/4, and someone's trying to play a 2/4, is it 2/4 march or a 3/4 waltz, it's all going to fuck up because one person's playing at one tempo, another person's playing at another time signature. The whole thing falls apart. So a lot of these things are all built on principles of harmony, and it's no different within the Church of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. It all has to function on harmony. Now, I'm going to close out soon because I've been talking for a long time, but there's a few more points I want to make. Point I want to make is that there's many different men who the Most High put spirits into. And, hang on. Bear me, I'm just pulling this up. I could even go to 1 Samuel 16 and 16. I'm going to do this just to make a point. 1 Samuel 16. Because a lot of people see King David as having been a great mighty warrior. One of the most famous things King David is known for is the slaying of Goliath. And also King David slew many more men in his lifetime. He was a man of war after the Most High's own heart. But King David had another gift that the Most High put on him. We don't often go into this because, it's kind of an inside joke where we say now is not the time to go into the fact that King David played the harp. But I want to make a point. 1 Samuel 16 and 16. Let me start from 14, because it's funny. 1 Samuel 16 and verse 14. But the spirit of the Lord Yahweh departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from Yahweh troubled him. And Saul's servant said unto him, Behold now, an evil spirit from the Most High troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants, which are before thee, to seek out a man who is a cunning player on a harp. Not just some average dude. Not some, fly-by-night, I play the harp, but I practice once every blue moon. No, a cunning player, meaning someone who was highly proficient in this particular area. A cunning player on a harp, and it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from the Most High is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. Because there's a saying in the world, music soothes the savage beast, and it is of a truth. That's why you hear certain music in certain venues. Sometimes it's to rile people up. Oftentimes with popular music it's to rile people up and make them degenerate. But also it can be soothing, and it can quiet spirits on people in the right context. That's why when you hear harp music, it often sounds heavenly. And that's why, brothers shouldn't be afraid of classical music, man. That whole idea, that's from the white man, is bullshit. It's bullshit. That's Jake music, man. And Jake music, it has to be, grime or from the streets or some hip hop. Nah, man. We were those ancient men composing those great symphonies, man. Not Esau. Edom don't do that. That was all us. Yeah? Anyway, reading on, 17, and Saul said unto his servants, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. basically, I'm just going to get to the point. The person that was chosen to do that was King David. He played one on the harp, and King David was a man that understood musical theory, because when you look at not greatest, but the largest book in the Bible is the book of Psalms, which are all songs, most of them were comprised by King David, and they were meant to be sung. So it only stands to reason, because the Most High put that cunning spirit on David to be able to do that particular thing. Now, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that in all of this is that there's different men who have different talents, but at the end of the day, we're all supposed to come together as one body. There's a film which I recommend brothers watch called Jesus of Nazareth, and it's a very good film. I think it's like 6 hours or something. You can find it on YouTube. And obviously, you know, we separate the meat from the bones. You know, once you overlook, you know, that Jesus is portrayed by a so-called white man. I think the guy's name was Robert Powell. Once you put that aside and you watch the film with a spiritual eye, there are a lot of good things that can be discerned from that. And I remember in that film, there's a particular scene where at first, when Yahushua is bringing his disciples together, I think it's the Apostle Peter, he had a problem with, is it Andrew? Because Andrew was a tax collector. And obviously Peter didn't really respect his profession. And at first Peter didn't want to talk to him. And Peter would be standoffish around him. But in the end, they ultimately came together, and they learned to work together, and they learned to put aside their differences and work together as brothers. And that's the key thing that I'm trying to push here. Being able to put aside differences, maybe differences of culture, differences of background, differences of upbringing, and coming together to work together in unity, in harmony, and in concert and concord. I'm using all these words. You can look them up if you want to do the will of the Heavenly Father, because ultimately none of us are here doing our will. We're really servants making sacrifices to further the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. We use our bodies as living sacrifices, hopefully to honor the Most High in the best way we possibly can. And that starts with obviously us teaching the word in all sincerity and truth, but then also bringing whatever talents that the Most High may have bestowed upon each brother into the ministry in order to help further the ministry. You know, I'll use an example. There's a particular brother over here who's very, very talented when it comes to learning and speaking languages. Exceptionally talented. I've never seen anybody in the world who had mastered as many languages as this guy. But guess what? The Most High put that spirit upon him to be able to do that for the furtherance of the ministry. You know, and he'll give a different spirit to another brother in a particular area to do a cunning work. It doesn't necessarily have to be something physical, but cunning work in the spirit that they can use to edify the church. So every brother has their particular talent. Every brother's got a beautiful gift, and we all have to embrace our beautiful gifts and not envy other brothers what they may have, because the scriptures in Exodus 20, let me get it on screen so you can see it. Exodus 20, this goes into the 10 primary commandments. There's 613 laws, but they're summarized in the 10. Let's read some of them. Exodus 20 from verse 1. And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord Yahweh, thy power, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, thy power, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. I'm getting to the point, bear with me. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord Yahweh thy power in vain. The Lord Yahweh will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labour and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord Yahweh thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days, meaning 6,000 years, Yahweh hath made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. I'm getting to the point, forgive me. Honour thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour. This is the point I wanted to get to. Forgive me, I read into it because I wanted to establish the various components of things that we need to do in this truth to stay on point. So I've listed some things there. This point here is an important one. 17, Exodus 20 and 17. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbour's. Now the key point being, nor anything that is thy neighbour's. So if we go into the word covet,
Strong's H2530. Chamad.
right, so the outline of the word for covet there is to desire, covet, take pleasure in, delight in. We're not supposed to do that in something that is our neighbour's. We're not supposed to covet our neighbour's house, our neighbour's car, our neighbour's bicycle, our neighbour's wife, our neighbour's job, anything that our neighbour is. We're not supposed to covet it. Hang on a minute. Bear me a second. This is what I want, yeah? Dictionary definition. Covet. To desire wrongfully, inordinately, or without due regard for the rights of others. That's the real definition I want. To desire wrongfully, inordinately, or without due regard for the rights of others. So something that someone else has, if you covet it and you're not really considering, hey, you know what, man, that's that brother's portion. That's what the Most High has bestowed upon him. That's where envy can creep in. And envy is another dangerous sin. When you start to envy other brothers for maybe particular possessions they have, or maybe particular skill sets they may have, we shouldn't really envy other brothers for that. Really, we should be commending other brothers for their what they have. And this is something that Jake in the world generally don't really do. And when they do it, they have to make a big fucking song and dance about it. Like in the hip-hop world. Yeah, I gave that man his shine. I gave him his props. And it's like they say it in almost like a resentful thing that, oh, well, yeah, he ain't nothing, but I did give him the time of day, so I'm doing him a favour. That's a worldly niggerish mindset. Like, because niggas are going to be niggas, man. What's more beautiful than that is to be able to say to a brother who you may admire, or a brother who may have a particular skill that you wish you had, or does something that maybe you can't do but you wish you could do, is to give that man a compliment. Pay him a compliment. If he does something wrong, why not say, hey, you know what, brother, I really like the way you do that. Would you mind showing me how you do that, or could you teach me? But in order to do that, one has to first humble themselves, because that type of dialogue comes from a place of humility. That comes from understanding that, hey, you know what, man, I ain't really shit. I ain't nothing. But you know what? I'd like to be. Maybe this person could teach me. So I will admit that I'm not very good in order to get better, because in order to get better, you need to get better. You can't get better by getting worse. So the first step to getting better is admitting that, hey, you know what? I'd like to be better. And then you take the steps necessary in whatever field you're in to accomplish that. And I made this lesson quite long. Well, I haven't made it long. The Spirit of the Lord has had it go long. But the point I want to make is this, is that the Most High is bringing together 144,000 men from the 12 tribes of Israel. Not every man is going to be the same, because we're not a nation of clones. This isn't, Star Wars, the Attack of the Clones. We're all going to have individual spirits, individual gifts, and individual talents. And the real key to success, the secret of success in this instance, is letting every man play to their best strength as the Most High has ordained them to be. Like, you could use football as a great analogy. Over here we call it football. In America, you guys probably call it soccer. But on a football pitch, you have 11 players on 11 players on each side. And they're all not doing the same thing. It's comprised of different offices. You've got one person standing in goal. You may have 2 or 3 men standing as defence. Then you've got another 3 men maybe playing the midfield. And then at the top of the pitch, you've got maybe 2 or 3 players who are positioned as strikers. Now, every man can kick the ball, but not every man can kick the ball in the same way, because they're all playing different positions. The way a goalkeeper is going to kick the ball is going to be completely different to the way a striker is going to kick the ball. And the way a midfield player is going to kick the ball is going to be completely differently a different whole reasoning behind it than the way a defender would kick the ball. Does that make the striker better than the goalkeeper? No. Does that make the defender better than the midfielder? No. It makes them all a great team if they all play to their best strengths. If the goalkeeper's resenting the striker, thinking, who does he think he is, kicking the ball in the net like that? He's getting all the shine and here I am standing and nobody's giving me my shine, or whatever it is maybe going through his mind. That's not a mindset that's conducive to the benefit of the overall team. Really, for a team to do well, they have to have the same focus, even though they're playing different positions. And that focus should be to win the match. And that's the whole point. It's about winning the match. There are a lot of fights in this world. A lot of fights. I mean, fights between yourself, maybe family members. And when I say fight, I don't just mean physical throwing punches. I mean conflicts. You might have family members, family conflict. You may have difficulty in the job. You may have trouble with your finances. There are a lot of battles we face. But one area where we're not supposed to be battling or competing in is inside this truth among the brotherhood. We're all supposed to be focused on the same end goal. And we should be fighting the enemy, which is Esau. It's like a inside joke here is you've got brothers, no longer brothers. You've got guys who are once among us, ready to fight their fellow Labour men, but yet they ain't looking to put hands on Esau. What's that all about? Not going to go into that, but that's just a side thought. But it just emphasises the point. Our battle is with the rest of the world. It's not within the brotherhood. And that's the key point. So just to summarise what I was saying, the Most High creates different men with different purposes, but we're all members of one body, and we're all operating in different offices. But one office isn't greater than the other. Even with the scriptures, you've got many. It's broken down into, major prophets and minor prophets. In the world, they call them major prophets and minor prophets. You've got Isaiah. I was going to say Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. They're considered to be major prophets. But does that make them better than Obadiah or Jude, who only had one book? Whereas, Ezekiel's got Ezekiel's got 37 plus chapters. Isaiah's got 66 chapters, maybe more. Those are just off approximations. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. But like Jude's only got 1 chapter. Peter's only got 2 books. Does that make them any better? No. It's just different portions of spirit are given to different men. And we've got to play the way the Most High plays, because at the end of the day, this is the Most High's order. This is the Most High's setup. And we just have to roll with it, because guess what? If you don't roll with it, you're going to get rolled over by it. Because this truth, as the Apostle Tahar says, is like a juggernaut, man. The juggernaut, for those of you who know the X-Men, is the character that whenever he moves in a particular direction, there's no force that can stop him. Even if it slows him down, he'll still be moving. Like you could encase the juggernaut in concrete, so it looks like it's stationary, but guess what? It's still moving. Even though it's so small that the eye can't perceive it. The juggernaut cannot be stopped. And that's what this truth is. Now, I've said a lot. I'm going to end it there because I don't want to ramble for too much more. But Lord willing, this was edifying in the spirit to those who need to hear this word or receive this word. So with that, there's one more thing I do want to mention. Bear with me, because I've used covet in the negative sense, but there is a positive example. Let me get this one verse and I'll close out on this. Bear with me a second. Bear with me while I pull it up. Bear with me. Come on, bear with me. Forgive me, I'm just trying to find a precept here, bear with me. Forgive me. Oh, it's Elijah. I'm typing Ezekiel, forgive me. Elijah was taken up, bear with me. Yeah, this is what I wanted. 2 Kings 2:11. So this is 2 Kings 2 and verse 9. And it came to pass when they were gone over that Elijah said unto Elisha, Ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. So Elisha coveted, but in a righteous way, the portion of spirit that Elijah had. And he wished that he could have that portion of spirit too. Now, what do the scriptures say in regards to this? There's a precept I'm going to pull here. Oh, gosh. There's a precept I want to pull here. It says this. This is Matthew 7 and verse 8. I'm going to read it off my other device. I want to keep this on the screen because I'm coming back to this point. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 8 says, For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. So one of the key things to receiving something is that we have to first ask for it. You know? This is Matthew 21 and 22. It says this also. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Luke 11 and 10. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and him that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. So Elisha asked of Elijah for a double portion of his spirit. So what's he saying? What in this moment, what is Elisha actually saying to Elijah? He's going back to what I said before. He's commending him for having a spiritual gift that is commendable, and also something that maybe many other people would also desire to have. So Elisha, as they say in the worldly street terms, is giving Elijah his shine, or giving him his props, but he's not doing it in a disingenuous way or a way to discredit him. He's actually being humble and saying, yo man, I really wish I could have the portion of spirit that you've got. So he's coveting what Elijah had, but in a righteous way. What happens next? Verse 10. Let me read it again. 2 Kings 2:9 again. And it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, ask what I shall do for thee, before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. And he said, thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee, but if not, it shall not be so. And it came to pass as they still went on and talked. See, they had a good relationship, as brothers should have, man. Brothers should talk to each other, man. Brothers should talk to each other, man. Like, forgive me, I'm kind of getting a bit annoyed now. Like, the brotherhood is more than just turning up at camp on a Saturday and saying shalom and bringing out precepts together and going home and then forgetting about the brothers the other 6 days of the week, because camp is just one small camp is like the smallest thing about being in the truth. Really, the truth is a 24/7 365 day event. The truth is constant. You're always in the truth, even when you're not at camp. When you're at home, you're thinking about precepts. Whenever you see anything, you're running it through your mind, like, what does the Bible say about this? What does the Bible say about that? You should be constantly tuned on and tuned into the spirit, man. Now, the thing about the brotherhood is that how can you get to know brothers if you only ever see them in a camp setting, and you don't really communicate with them outside of a camp setting? It's needful. For the body to really work, it's needful that these things be. But in order to do that, communication has to take place. And in order to communicate, people have to be both willing to talk and willing to listen. Because communication is a two-way exchange. It's not a one-way street. You have to be able to talk, and you also have to be able to listen. And then the third component of that is being able to successfully process the information that's been received. Because a lot of what we do in this life is really information processing. Forgive me, I don't want to get too science fiction, but really, that's what we do most of the day. We process information. But whether we receive information through our eyes, or we receive information through our ears, or we receive information through our sense of taste or our sense of touch, really what we're constantly doing is processing information. And the higher component of that is being able to process that information in concordance with what the Holy Scriptures say. That's the real success. That's how you're able to discern fact from fiction, right from wrong, up and down, left from right. But the point I want to emphasize here is that Elijah and Elisha talked. They talked. It says, verse 11, 2 Kings 2:11. And it came to pass as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven, meaning that Elijah was abducted by a chariot, a UFO for you people of the world, because the UFOs are in the scriptures. They're called the chariots of the Most High. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. So there is multiple chariots, but one large one took Elijah away. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his own clothes and rent them in two pieces. And he took up also the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and went back and stood by the bank of the Jordan. And Elisha did receive that double portion of the spirit that he had asked for. It was granted unto him because he saw Elijah taken up. So his wish was granted. But guess what? Elisha was humble enough to ask the question. And, that takes humility. Humility isn't a bad thing. Humility is actually something to be embraced, because it's through being humble that we learn the most, because we're taking a lowly position. When someone takes a position of that they're, like a lot of those Rastafarians say, yeah, I overstand this, me overstand this, me overstand that. That's some foolishness, man. That's some fucking foolishness, and that comes from pride. I overstand this, meaning that I'm over what you're saying. I overstand the situation. And you got a lot of Benjamites who are in that spirit, man. When really they should be humble and be like, you know what, man? Maybe if I humble down, I could learn a lot. And that's the beauty of the way the human body works. It's of a truth. It's impossible to talk and listen at the same time. It's just impossible. It's like trying to ice skate uphill. You can't do it. So in order to be skilled at listening, you have to stop talking. There's a time to everything. There is a season and a time. And part of the skill is knowing when to speak and when to keep silence. And in keeping silence, a lot can be learned, because then you can actually focus all your attention on processing what the person is saying. That's the point I wanted to make on that. Now, the last scripture I'm going to bring out is this. 2 more precepts and I'm closing. John 16 and 24. This is the book of John chapter 16 and verse 24. On the importance of asking. We've established that asking ye shall receive. Knocking it shall be opened unto you. John 16 and 24. Hereto have ye asked nothing in my name. Ask and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. Again, that's emphasizing the point. But this is James 4 and verse 3. James 4 and verse 3 says, Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lusts. Ye ask and ye receive not. Yeah. So, I've made the point. I was just checking to see if I had any more scriptures on deck. But yeah, man, if there's something that you want, do what Elisha did. Pray for it and then ask for it as well. And there's no shame in asking, man. I think as men, generally speaking, as little boys, we're kind of socialized to be strong and independent. And men generally don't want to feel weak or in a position of weakness or a position of inferiority. But that's a thing of the world. Within the brotherhood, that thing should not exist. That thought process shouldn't be in effect among brothers, because we're all one body, we're all one family, we're all working together, man. That whole ism and schism thing, that's a thing of the world. We're coming out of those curses, we're coming into the truth. And really we need to love each other, and we need to embrace each other and embrace each other's what I suppose some could say eccentricities or gifts or whatever you want to call it. We should embrace that, because at the end of the day, this is a body with many members. Not all members is an eye, not all members is a finger, not all members is a foot, but every member has its function and its role to play and is needful for the body. Because as Apostle Paul said, if the ear say, because I'm not overseeing, am I no longer profitable? No. The ear is for hearing. It's got its function. The eye is for seeing. Just as your feet are for standing and your hands are for touching. Everything has its function and its role to play. And we have to embrace the role that the Most High has allotted to us. And first and foremost, be grateful that we've been called into this ministry, because as the scriptures say, many are called but few are chosen. The fact that a person has been called into this ministry, just being called alone, is a great honour, but whether or not we're chosen, well, that's another matter. But we give diligence to make our calling and election sure. I could venture off into a number of different precepts and topics, but I'm going to end it there. Lord willing, it's been edifying for those who have heard it. So I want to give once again all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Ruchachodash, double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone of all well. Shalom once again unto the 144,000 elect men of the nation of Israel and the rest of the elect that are destined to be saved. And I'll catch you on the next lesson, Lord willing. Shalom for now.